Some, this feels like I'm going a bit off-piste and actually talking about anything positive to do with Manchester United at the minute, but there is. I mean, I know that the last result has made everything seem a bit bad, and I mentioned in a previous video that the last three results I think have been on a downward spiral, so I'm hoping that we can turn things around, but ultimately, you have to kind of look at Manchester United or any football club in a few different parts. You've obviously got the on-pitch success or lack of it right now, even though we've had like a few good results in the past few weeks. You also then want to look at off-pitch, what we're actually doing. And it's come out recently that there are two things that really we can look at and say towards our future we can actually be happy about. And this isn't going to be a deep dive on the manager or a deep dive on tactics or anything like that. It's actually a deeper dive on how the football club is being operated, because I think that is something that, fans will take the mick out of and say, yeah, but we're not going to see the effects of it. I think it's that sort of mentality that has put us in the position that we are in right now, where we can't see the wood through the trees, where we're constantly relying on each result to dictate how we're going, and we can't actually rely on the fact that we've been run properly, because we haven't for the past 10 to 15 years, and we know exactly why. The Glazer ownership has put us in a disgusting situation, which should never have been allowed by the Premier League, should never have been allowed by the authorities. And now we all know that they bought us in a way which is considered illegal today. They won't retrospectively go back and sort that out, because I think it's just a legal minefield for them. So we are hamstrung until we get them out of the football club. And we know that INEOS coming in, some may say that it's given them a life raft. I disagree. They were never going to sell, because if they were, then they would have sold to the mysterious Qatari consortium with Sheikh Jassim, if that was real, because that was clear money that would have been brought in. But they didn't do that, and there's only so much that any other prospective buyer can come in and do. So ultimately we have to just look at the situation and say we have to make the best out of a bad one. And INEOS have come in and taken full football directorship and full football ownership of everything sporting wise on the football club, and that's happy. That's made me happy. I'm good with that, because on the business side, there was nothing really wrong with how the Glazers were running it, because we were still making money all the time. But it was on the sporting side and on the ownership of that element that was always going to be a problem. And thankfully, INEOS have come in and they haven't been flawless. Of course they haven't been, but they've weeded out a lot of rot. They've weeded out a lot of the problems, and they've come in and set us on a course that is much more closer to success than where we have been. So I want to talk about two of the key figures of that today, after a few announcements that have come over the past week. So before we get into that, please do drop a like on the video if you're enjoying this type of content. And if you are new, this is the non-toxic and healthy Manchester United platform. I'm not going to dive into players and say you're this and you're that. I like to keep things as level and as healthy as possible, to actually encourage some good discussion about the football club, because we all want us to succeed and we all want to do it in the right way. So if you resonate with that, please do drop a follow and subscribe if you are new, and get involved in the comments, because I do read and respond to every single one. Now, two things came out this past week. One of them was that we are, by Forbes, we are the second most valuable football club in the world, behind Real Madrid. I would say that in terms of when you have these conversations with people on who's the biggest club and the most successful or anything like that, you would kind of put Real Madrid and Manchester United in a league of their own. I think I'm being honest, Real Madrid are stratospheric. I don't think, unless they have a dramatic fall off for decades and someone has a dramatic ascent in decades, no one's getting close to Real Madrid. They are ridiculous. European, domestically, internationally, the brand, everything about Real Madrid is bigger than every other club in the world. And that's just a fact. And I think Manchester United, I'm not saying we're a close second, but I think we are second. I do think we trump Barcelona. I do think we trump Liverpool, because Liverpool are technically more successful than we are. Same amount of English titles, more European honours. I think cups, some they have, some we have. I'm not entirely sure on that end, but they double our European success. But I would still say, as a brand, Manchester United are positioned in a different way to them, because we always have been. And what I think is interesting about that statistic is this whole thing. I made a video on it, taking the mick. We are still massive. No matter what happens, we're still big. And that's true. We are still massive, but that isn't a reason to then take your foot off the gas. And that has been a reason to take a foot off the gas over the past decade. But now, to still have a sustained level of underperformance by our standards and still be the second most valuable club in the world is massive, because from a business point of view, that will mean that we can do a lot more than other clubs won't do. Because realistically, losing that Europa League final should have hamstrung us completely. We went and bought a whole new front line and a new goalkeeper. That wouldn't happen at most other clubs, but it happens at Manchester United because we can make that happen. We still have the fan base, we still have the stadium, we still have all of the different revenue streams. We're still Manchester United. That is just, it's not a coping mechanism, it's a fact. And that isn't a reason to then ignore all of the other problems, which I'll get onto, but it's a good foundation for addressing those problems. And one of the things that's been addressed so far under the INEOS regime, whether you like it or not, and we'll probably see the long-term effects of it in due time, is our long-term recruitment strategy. You can see from the first team players that we've bought, we are adopting this idea of having a longer shelf life for all of them, whether it's investing in a young striker, investing in, up-and-coming talents throughout the rest of the squad, or even trying to, using data over our eyes to make sure we make the right decisions, which is, what Michael Edwards at Liverpool did, and when he bought Salah over, I think, was it Julian Brandt that Klopp wanted at the time? So we're actually responding to things in a much better way, and we're not getting drawn into stupid sagas anymore like we had done for the past 10 years. So we're buying better, and some will you can pick out the odd player here or there who hasn't worked out. For example, I'm upset that Ugarte hasn't worked out so far, and he has to turn it around massively if it's going to, and it's a tall order, but that was still the type of profile we should have gone for. Oh, we should have got João Neves instead. No, one happened before the other one. We had contact with João Neves' camp. We just weren't going to sign him. He was going to PSG whether we liked it or not. So we have to just be realistic with where we are and how we are, and that is what we need to be doing, just signing good young players moving forward and profiling them proper for any manager. And that's where we come onto the youth recruitment, because in the last few years since INEOS have been here, that's a year and a half or so since they've been here, we've seen the likes of Diego Leon, Sekou Kone, Samuel Lascelles, James Overy. We have also now Cristian Orozco coming in as well. And he's like $1 million, I think, from Fortaleza. And you've got Diego Leon from Cerro Porteño, which was about £2 or £3 million, and with add-ons it could go higher. So these are signings for me that excite me the most. Like, as a football manager player, yes, I want Manchester United to be signing young wonder kids. I want that. But as a football fan and someone who kind of is getting more interested into the business of football as well, Manchester United, the one thing that we haven't had away from on-pitch success is assets. We haven't been able to sell on players the way we should be selling them on, unless they come through our academy, at which point they go through at a cut price because we haven't got anyone else in the squad to really compare them to. So now we're buying in players which are... There is no downside to buying them, and the upside is huge. If Diego Leon becomes a really good wing-back under Ruben Amorim, then we've got a really good wing-back for a cheap price, and he comes in at 17, 18 years of age. Similarly with Cristian Orozco, we need a midfielder. We all would have said we should have gone to Independiente del Valle when they had Moises Caicedo and just dropped the 4 mil when we could have done, but we didn't. And it seems now we are rectifying those mistakes, and even though it seems like it's going to be a long time before we reap the benefits of it, that would just remain to be seen. But it's glad that we're in that conversation now. And Christopher Vivell, and we're expanding our recruitment team all the time to find these young talents and make use of the scouting system we already have. And it almost looks like we're streamlining them so that the decision is made quickly, swiftly, and decisively, which we haven't done, which is why we lost out on Haaland, why we lost out probably on Bellingham, and why we definitely lost out on Moises Caicedo. And had we had all of those 3 players at the club right now, I think we'd be all right. So ultimately, people are going to be annoyed that there isn't any immediate return coming out of the players that we're buying. But these young players, I think, is the way forward for us. And it's something we've been crying out for. And I always say this when it comes to long-term recruitment and when it comes to the recruitment of Manchester United. Had we recruited young players like the Diego Leons, the Sekou Kones, and the now Cristian Orozcos of the future over the past 10 to 15 years, we would not be in the situation which we are in right now. So we're now forecasting moving forward and saying we've got these players in, hopefully they come good or maybe they don't. But if they don't, then the investment is negligible in terms of how big we are and how much we're spending on them. If they're okay, you still got a good sellable asset probably to other areas of world football. And if they're great, then they play for us, or we sell them on for a stupid profit. Either way, that is how a big club is supposed to be operating. And I think for so long, because I think we've just been operating on the arrogance and negligence of the people who've been in charge, who don't understand how to run a football club and don't understand the value in these long-term signings and in this long-term thinking. This short-term papering over the cracks and, hoping for the best was always going to come back to bite us, and it has. And now people want to flip it and say, we're not going to see the value of this straight away. We need something right now. Pick one. We've seen one side doesn't work, and I'm not saying all the players that we've brought in are going to be world beaters, but some of them could be. And you're well worth using your extensive scouting system, which has already been in place, but now streamlining the situation where we know how to be decisive on them and actually making stuff happen, because the upside is too good to ignore, as we've seen from the many players that we've missed out on. So even though there's a lot of stuff to be negative about with Manchester United, I think this is a positive. And also, I don't think we're buying them to suit a specific manager. I think all of the players could potentially be good under Ruben Amorim because they have certain traits, but they're not out and out Ruben Amorim type players. So that is also quite good to see as well, because that is a broader way of thinking. We're not saying we have this manager, we have to buy everyone who fits that manager. We're buying good, saleable assets as players, but also good technical profiles that will just raise the overall floor of the football club. And that's exactly what we need. So that is my little 2 pence on these types of signings, and I think they are going to come good eventually, and I think that is something to be positive about. And I just wanted to put this video out there, having seen the siege of negativity after that Everton result, and what I believe will probably be another siege of negativity if and when, in my opinion, we lose against Crystal Palace. I don't see us winning that game at Selhurst Park, especially how we played last time. So let me know what you think of what I just said in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the long-term thinking of the football club, and if you're happy about that, subscribe if you are new, and I guess I'll see you after the Palace game. So yeah, all the best.